member states, they do really deal with the performing and preparation of the request, of the European investigation request. Then the training that was there was not globally referring to European investigation order in general, but to some aspects of the European investigation order. And last but not least, the system that was what was in a phase of put in place by the European Commission in some member states was even unknown. Okay, so first of all, we enlarged the audience of the training. So together with judges and prosecutors, we also identified some other members of the competent authorities that could be trained. And higher administrative officials in some member states were included, and in some also law enforcement agencies employees, which are part of the European investigation order chain. Our guiding principles. So, first, respond to the needs and priorities of interest of the participants. Then, to provide a flexible approach allowing to meet these needs. And Jean maybe will a little bit go further on this, and we show you that more than one training for all member states, we had one training for each member state, because the adaptation to the national context was so important in some member states that the training was developed as a unique training for those. Then we have to stimulate the connection with the participant on practice, because we had to communicate to them, hey, look, what we are trying to do with you will be useful for your daily work. And then to replicate, to let this training be replicated by those participants for other peers, so for other judicial members in their own countries. As a result, the training content is designed to be modular, multidisciplinary, and multi-level manner. Outcomes. So, we aim to have a structured knowledge of European investigation order procedures, identifying and overcome the typical difficulties that are in place when dealing with European investigation orders in the member states, and learn how to use the eEDES digital exchange system effectively. Which is the knowledge that at the end the participants to the TREIO training had gained? So, we tried to transfer the knowledge on European legal assistance and cooperation in the judicial process and the contribution of European investigation order in this context. In most member states, there was still unclear at the beginning if they have to use the mutual legal assistance of the European investigation order. So we tried to put clarity there and to communicate when one legal instrument should be used instead of the other. Then produce a knowledge and critical understanding of the core obstacles on how this can be overcome in the issuing and execution of European investigation order, to generate a high level of familiarity with the eEDES, and of course the ability to finally exchange European investigation order using eEDES in a structured manner. So the TREIO Toolkit comprises a set of training materials that have been translated in several languages, and they are materials that can be used by every member state to perform training in their national context. A set of guidelines to indicate which is the methodology that can be put in place when dealing with the training. A self-paced e-learning course, which will be shown after by Georgina, an eEDES simulator, and a FAQs functionality organized per item and topic, and the toolkit usage guidelines. Moreover, which I'm not presenting here today, an action plan for the future implementation of TREIO training tools in all member states will be delivered as well. This is just to show you that while developing our training, we didn't do it by ourselves in our rooms or just between us. We tried always to have a validation from the community, and we recently had a validation workshop in Florence in October, and this is just one of the results that came out when the request was to the participants. If you have to organize your training in your member state, which is the strategy that you would put in place? So, as you can see, e-learning and traditional training materials are almost on the same percentage, but also the simulator has been perceived as one important piece of the toolkit and the guidelines. So by looking at this graphic, we can say that there is a balance between the tools, okay? And the balance is due to the fact that the training is modular. So every member state, each member state can choose how to go, how to use it. But all over the e-learning and the traditional learning, it must be pointed out that the simulator, so the hands-on practice, has been perceived as the bridge between the two. So good to be trained or online or in person, but good to have the opportunity to play with the instruments and to test if I have a good comprehension of what I have learned. So modularity means that all member states, every member state can choose its own strategy when going into a domestic scenario. We do not recommend a particular strategy, so the approach of the toolkit is neutral. We do not indicate a specific path. Up to the member states to choose. They have the tools in the toolkit and they can choose how to use them. They can go for e-learning and traditional learning in the same time. They can give the option to participants to say, well, which one would you prefer to go for? But always, what we recommend is always to take into due consideration the fact that hands-on exercise is very important. Key points to consider when dealing with organizing the training. So you have to think about if you wanted to organize it central or local, meaning that if you organize it central, you might have the need to identify a central authority that would coordinate the national trainings, guiding and adapting what is needed to the national context. In some member states, we do have schools for judiciary, but this is not the case in every member state. Then consider to have an hybrid approach, meaning both traditional and online, or just a face-to-face, or just an online. This is up to member state to evaluate which is the best option for their judiciary members, the staff of the judiciary they want to train. But anyway, you have to be flexible, meaning that time to carry on the training should be agreed also according to the personal schedules of the participants. Create incentives and certification. These would help to perceive the useful of going for a training. If they have a certification, they might be more available to have the training. Raise awareness on the benefit, but not only to participants, but mainly to the chiefs, to the head of the office, that have to know that if a member of his staff or her staff goes for a training, it's not just a waste of time. It's not just that he doesn't want to carry on the ordinary work. It's that he's going to get a better knowledge. It's going to grow up from the professional point of view. Then verify the role of the participant within the judiciary. So better to divide per category. If you have a lot of administrative staff, it's better if you go for them and not to mix them up. Then it might be something that is not to be evaluated, but for real, we experienced that to verify the knowledge on European investigation order and mostly on the IT skills, it is very important. Because we take for granted that IT is used in a very easy way by all people, but it's not like that. It's not like that. So you have to know before organizing a training which is the digital skill level of the participants. This is all for my toolkit, and I hope that if you have questions, I'm here, of course, but that you will all go home and say, oh, let's try to use the toolkit when it will be available. And let us know if it works, because it's like a baby that we have grown up, educated, so we have to know if it's polite.
Thank you very much, Mariangela, for also putting this now image of this baby that has grown, and we need to check on their politeness level. Okay.
That is the most important thing, I guess.
Politeness. Excellent. Are there any questions at this stage for Mariangela, or should we just move on for a little bit more, and then there's of course time for more questions as we go along, but are there any burning questions at this point? No, I cannot see any at this moment. So I'm going to now hand over the moderation to Mariangela, and I'm going to present instead.
Okay, happy to do so. So, a piece of the baby, which is more a Lego than a real baby. So now we will listen at the presentation by Jeanne. Jeanne is the mother of the in-person training framework. So together with Mel, she developed the in-person training framework, and she will tell us about the content, the materials, and the guidelines. So Jeanne, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mariangela. So just to say who I am, because before I just said Jan Sudonici, so I'm a professor at the University of Groningen in the Netherlands, and a professor of law primarily and technology. So this is the area where, from which I come. I'm very happy to be able to present to you what we've prepared as training materials that we're handing over now for others to use. I have prepared my presentation in sort of two parts. One, I'm going to say what was our thinking in the beginning, and then have we achieved it, and what has changed in the preparation. 1 second, because my slides are not changing. Yeah. So we set out to have this training that in person. So here when I say in person, I do not necessarily mean that it has to be only physical, right? So what we learned very soon in TREIO was that we were immediately in the pandemic, and the physical trainings were not going to work, or rather in person, really face to face. So we had immediately a first challenge to think of in-person trainings as being both physical, because we of course knew that COVID would end at some point, that can be done completely online if necessary, and also a hybrid of the two. And so what we set ourselves, or what we wished to do at that point, we said, okay, we would like to do something that combines the legal aspects with what we call the business aspects of the eEDES system that Christian presented this morning. it was really very much a law meeting technology approach that Mariangela just mentioned earlier. And we had quite a lot of discussion with colleagues who were working with the EIO at the time, and they all were very much expert in the legal aspects. But we know that the eEDES system is hopefully here to stay. So in the course of it being here to stay, not every person who will be using eEDES will have been an expert. So we need to think of a training that can work well with experts at this moment in time, but also with those who are joining the different offices, whether it's the prosecutor's office, whether with the judiciary, whether with the police in some countries where, like the Netherlands, the police have a first step in the involvement of the drafting and issuing of an EIO. So first three challenges: combining legal with tech. Second, experts and novices needs to be able to do this. Thirdly, something that can work in physical space, online and hybrid, and that can speak to different people. That can speak to judges, prosecutors, administrative staff, etc., as Mariangela mentioned. And also, of course, it's not a training that I will do myself in everywhere in the European Union at all times. So it needs to be executed and being able to be executed by different trainers, and can be adapted to the national circumstances. Because let's remember very clearly that we have a very nice, rich and diverse legal traditions, cultures, and procedures. So those also we need to take into account in the training. And we need to make sure that these are in several languages of the EU. So what have we done to achieve this? In the Netherlands, there's this nice phrase, are we creating a sheep with 5 legs? I know that it's also a phrase in French, and it felt like this, I have to say. It was een beetje schaap met 5 poten. But what did we make out of it? So yes, we did combine the legal aspects together with the eEDES aspects. And so the curriculum as such is really follows a very logical flow of how eEDES is set up, and also how actually the whole EIO flow. So we start off with the scope, with materials on issuing the EIO, and immediately how this is done in eEDES, the same with receiving and executing an EIO. And when I say issuing an EIO, it seems like, oops, very quick. No, of course, the portal has quite a lot of distinct characteristics that we needed also to capture and to also put them in context of the legal developments. And this we did also, we've supported these materials with jurisprudence that was being developed also by the Court of Justice of the European Union on certain aspects of the EIO, and operational practices that we saw developing from the different member states. And of course, we used for this guidance by Eurojust on the EIO and the execution of the EIO in practice before eEDES system. Okay, I say curriculum, I say materials. What does this mean? It's basically we've provided materials for 11 sessions, divided strictly into issuing and receiving. And it's not just the materials and having the slides, I will show some, but also accompanying material on how do you teach this? What is it that you as a trainer would need to highlight? So there are training instructions, materials for the trainer ready to be used, and materials that also guide the trainer on how to use them, and additional supporting materials for additional knowledge. Plus, there's I think a very important plus is that it wasn't just a very static paper thing, but we've prepared also a set of tasks that can be done with the eEDES simulator, which Yanis will present in a little bit. So the materials and training instructions explain the methodology that can be followed, the scope and proposed implementation. And I say here 11 sets of slides, 11 accompanying notes. I have to share that I was at one point very shocked that when we sent these for translation, I realized that the documents amounted to 500 pages. And I was at that point realized how extensive our training materials that we had developed were at that point. So when I say, this is not meant for you to read, but when I say slides, you can see the first picture is of a slide with a picture of a snapshot from eEDES. This is specifically so that the trainer can choose whether to do a live demo or to use the slides instead, or if the demonstration for some technical reason stops, they have also slides. And then you can see in the next slide, it was more how would you use that screenshot. This is a screenshot from eEDES. It's part of Annex A. It's Section C. Look at the star. That's a mandatory field. That's connected to validation, etc. This is what I meant by exercise. So we said, look, you can also ask your participants to do an exercise on, for example, amending an EIO, and we give the aim, of course, of the exercise, and also then instructions step by step. How do you do it? Go to the simulator, go to the dashboard, etc., etc. This is we have 10 exercises on the different different aspects of eEDES. It doesn't mean that we've covered every potential capability of eEDES, because eEDES has quite a lot of possibilities, but we've made sure that we cover the more frequent, you could say, parts that are used in practice. And then we said, will this work with experts and novices as well? And does it work in physical space using video conferencing and hybrid? And with a relief, I can say, yes, it did. So we first gave suggestions on how a physical on-site training could be held. We did this, we experimented with this also ourselves when we did training for specific member states. So, and this brings me to our first idea was to have a master trainers type of training. So we train the trainers and they will continue to train other people. And what we saw is that some member states needed also broader, the master trainers, we trained master trainers and other people who were using the EIO. Some would be trainers themselves, some were just going to be using the system. And we've tried this in person. For example, in the Netherlands, we did this on 2 days with participants actually working over dinner with the exercises to make sure that they can also have practice. But of course, it's only Dutch participants are so keen to be able to work also at dinner. So I'm very proud of this. No, joking aside, we've tried this in several situations online with different member states, completely in an online setting, and this works. And here I've tried to capture a little bit what we've done. So in person, we've had in-person training in the national language or in English, depending who the trainers were. In online training sessions, primarily in English, when done by the TREIO training team, and hybrid, either in the national language or also sometimes supported by TREIO training and also other national trainers. And so what I'm trying to say is that what we started off as thinking, okay, we will do this and others will continue with it, we've adapted to the needs of every member state that required or that were willing to use our materials as we went along. Alexandra in the previous session said how difficult it was for her to reach out for every country, but I think at the end we've provided, I made a small mental note for myself, and I think it was about 13 or 14, Alexandra, you will correct me, how many trainings we've done in different modalities. I think even probably more, because some we've done more. Probably more like 20 different country settings. So, okay, all to say is there are the materials, we've proven that they can be used, and what is good with them is that they can be adapted. So they can be adapted to according to the audience. I said expert and novice. So with people who are already working on a daily basis with the EIO, of course, we've done a much more focused on eEDES. When the participants were new to international collaboration, then we focused also on the legal aspects. And the materials showed that you could do this. And this is why I say it speaks to the several audiences and also on their different levels of knowledge on the EIO process and also their digitalization fear or lack of it. And can this be executed by different trainers? It can, because it has been carried out also. So this our idea of training trainers and then different trainers carrying it on an international basis, this is being also done. And I think this has been, for example, done in Greece and in other countries. And we've translated, to be able to do this, we've translated the materials to several languages of the European Union. We have 17 languages that are, the materials are in 17 languages, which you can see here. These are translated into these 16 languages. And however, there is a however with that, is that they are translated by professional translators. Many of them have been validated also by practitioners, but not all yet. And we invite practitioners in different languages to, of course, before using them in an actual training, to make sure that they are precise enough for the training. I think I've already mentioned a little bit on this. This was our philosophy of training, the trainer methodology, and this is still what we would like, the tools, and this is why we've prepared these tools. They are there now for other trainers to take them on and to continue with the training where training has already started, and also where it hasn't, that they can be used for training. Originally, we thought that we would need these trainings would be really used or be useful mostly when a member state has decided to really close to implementation of the system in practice. But what we've seen from some of the trainings is that it's extremely useful to start this training together when the implementation team is thinking on how it should be implemented at a national level. Why? Because the practitioners, while they're seeing eEDES, they also then contribute back to the national characteristics that the implementation team needs to take into account. I've spent most of the time mentioning this training at a national level, but we've also tried to include a more of international, the cross-border aspects, to focus on them and to highlight them. and there are recordings available of sessions that have been taken place so far. What I think I'm proud of now as a result of what we've done is also the flexibility that Mariangela was referring to before, that with these materials there's a lot of flexibility, as I've shown, on the audience who can use them, flexibility on how to use them, and also in the whether it's physical, online, etc. And when I say modality on how to do them is the whether one wants to follow a very traditional form of teaching of this is how eEDES looks, how it is, or a more hands-on type of training. I think the materials allow for both very nicely, especially in combination with the simulator. And just to give some of the ideas and some of the modalities that we've used in the course of these different trainings is from a 2-day on-site training to a 1-day on-site and 1 online, and with extra time for participants to participate, to half days online, really focusing on the needs of the audience. So the material is good, adaptable for the different modalities and needs of the practitioners in the particular member state. At the end of the day, of course, the aim is that these materials are there to help aid, make sure that the people who will need to use eEDES have the materials that they need to be able to use them. And on this note, I invite member states who might not have made have not taken up the availability yet of the TREIO tools. As we heard, Germany, now TREIO has arrived as a name, to reach out to us to think of the different opportunities of how these materials can be used. Thank you very much for this.
So, thank you, Jean. And I think that I forgot, but also you forgot to mention that we also have the international session recording, which is available. You said it? Okay, and so there is really a lot of materials, and also the TREIO website is a good starting point to understand the methodology and also what is there, because on the website there are also some trainings that has been done in some members, recording of the trainings. So I invite you also to go on the TREIO website. Okay, so I think it's you moderating now.
Oh, and if you haven't had enough of me, I'm back as moderator now. Thank you. And on this note, and after having said how good the simulator is, Yanis, here you go.
Thank you, Zan. Hello, my name is Yannis Almatsidis. I'm the IT manager of Aristotle University of Thessaloniki. We prepared this presentation with Ion. Ion, you can intervene as you like. So I'm going to give you the technical perspective of the simulator. If I say something stupid legally wise, stop me. Apologies in advance. Oops. It's something. No. Yeah. Okay. Okay, let me give you some of the background information. In the beginning, in the phase of the preparing this proposal and the grant agreement, we had in mind that let's try to facilitate somehow the training, having a mock environment in order to offer to the users real-time, true-to-life simulations. It would be something that we could imagine from the beginning that had some added value some benefits to the users. At that time, and in the course of various eCodex related projects, we developed this central testing platform, of course, for different occasions, for example, following some testing protocols against some eCodex nodes. But we said, okay, it would be quite beneficial if, for example, we can leverage this infrastructure and the technology and the know-how that we had as a team to provide this real-time training. We had some initial internal discussions inside the project, and then, of course, with Digitalization, and we finally reached an agreement 2 years from now. And we thank you, Christian and Jamila, for allowing us to locally install the eEDES software. Of course, we agreed on the framework. It is installed in ISO 27001 certified data center inside the university, and under a very well established, let's say, framework, security-wise, type of licensing. And by the way, this license is granted only for the life cycle of the TREIO project, so keep that in mind. I'll come to this later on at the end of my presentation. So the confidentiality agreement and the system license was signed on April 2022. Now, in a typical, let's say, instructor-based training, you have the eCodex infrastructure in the middle, and you have two users, A and B. In the context of EIO, long story short, you just send an annex EIO Annex A, and some other fellow user, user B, needs to acknowledge with an Annex B. The one is the issuing state, the other one is the executing state. But in this context, you can understand, I mean, it's obvious that it is suitable for live, face-to-face training. It doesn't cater for the user needs of today, especially after the pandemic. I mean, we should somehow need to facilitate this training procedure, and obviously what we had in mind is to replace the necessity of the B user with a machine. And this machine is actually the TREIO autoresponder. So this type of scenario, training scenario, is suitable for self-paced training. And of course, if we can achieve this type of thing, we surpass all the, let's say, the time and geographical limitations. Here is the environment. We had to install an eCodex gateway. And you can see here, I mean, this is the eCodex TREIO here gateway. The trainee sits in front of the eEDES simulator, so it's here. Oops, sorry. There. So you have the simulator, and the important thing is that there is no need for national implementation required. So if you are one of the 11 member states that have not implemented, for example, eEDES in production, that is very convenient because you don't need, actually, you practically don't need anything, just the credentials in order to access these systems. Okay, basically the simulator and the responder. We'll come to this later. So the other thing is that you have the simulator, okay, practically the CTP, which is another eCodex gateway for the real-time training. And of course, you have the TREIO LMS that we're going to listen just after. And there is a loose, let's say, coordination between the TREIO LMS and the TREIO autoresponder. Why it's loose? In the beginning, we said, okay, somehow let's make some API type of thing between the LMS and the autoresponder to make it a little bit more integrated. It didn't happen that way, but it's not a trade-off. You just, I mean, for example, the user needs to follow the instructions on the LMS and then go to some public link with the credentials, do some exercise, get some results, and then go back to the LMS. So this is the type of coordination that we have between the two systems. Now, talking about the EIO terminology, the simulator is member XX, which is, as we said, an eCodex gateway. We also have a connector This is the terminology of eCodex, of course, and the custom core database, and the local installation, as we mentioned, of the software. We're trying to catch up with the versioning of the reference implementation. In the course of the 2-year project that we installed the simulator, for example, for the purposes of TREIO, we had, if I'm not wrong, at least 3 times we needed to upgrade. Now we're missing a minor upgrade. It should be something like 2.5. But we're not missing that much. These are minor upgrades. Then on the other side, you have the autoresponder, the member state ZZ. This one is an eCodex. It can respond to eCodex XML messages, and this is very important because actually it is, let's say, a very general eCodex XML responder, and in that sense, keep that it can be used for other legal instruments. Apart from that, apart from automatic, let's say, responses, the user can go inside this interface and also order exercises there, meaning order Annex A's in order to respond following the instructions. And also for the facilitation of the procedure and the flexibility of the user, all these 3 systems, the simulator, the autoresponder, and the LMS use a common username password for all these interfaces. We have plenty of them, 1.5 thousand of these credentials. If anybody wants access, just let us know. Now, which are the use case training scenarios that we are supporting? The first 7 ones you can recognize are filling an EIO, so you get the center role. If you're accustomed with EIO, I mean, for example, in the first one, you fill an EIO, you review, you amend, you sign and send, and then you expect the response from the responder. For example, checking whether an Annex B has been issued from the executing state or the responder requests additional information or whether your EIO is rejected. On the next 3 exercises, 8, 9, and 10, the user gets the receiver role, so it's the executing state now. He orders some cases, and then she should respond in a very, let's say, prescribed way. The final 7 exercises, it's again the center without instructions. All these have been described in the LMS. I mean, you can find all these instructions inside the LMS. Now, this is the behavior of the autoresponder, which is of the if-then type of thing. Okay, but all these if-then rules have been identified working in cooperation with Work Package 2, and after having listened to what are the training needs. For example, if the autoresponder just sits there 24/7 and tries and listens. If Annex A is issued, then always, as you can see over there in the first column, it issues an Annex B, but then drills in the Annex A and also checks Section C. If in Section C identifies some exact test, for example, search in private residence, it performs also additional things. For example, issues a request for additional information, then goes a little bit further away. If identifies all his physical properties, does also other things, rejects the EIO only after having issued Annex B, and then also checks if there is need for additional information. All these have been identified with Work Package 2 based on the user needs. Of course, this list is indefinite. If just bring us the training needs and we can put that in code into the autoresponder. So don't think that this is written in stone. We can do all sorts of things with this rule-based, let's say, approach. Now, this is a different representation of the previous if-then behavior. Here, it is a flow chart. We start with an EIO Annex A coming, then we always answer with Annex B, and then do some rules here, checking, perform some action, do some more rules, additional actions there, issue rejection, and then finally ends. this is the typical, let's say, situation on how the autoresponder responds. All the information here, this slide is more or less about the public link that the user uses. For example, this is the link for the simulator when the user assumes the issuing state of the simulator, the XX state. And in that case, in this outgoing EIOs, the executing state is the autoresponder, the ZZ state. The system even doesn't even allow you, for example, to choose another executing state. It has to go directly to the autoresponder just to avoid mistakes. In the other way around, in the incoming EIO, the user first needs to go to the autoresponder, order some exercises, exercises A, 9, or 10, visit this link in order to do so, EIO test 2.ee, etc., sorry, and order some Annex A. It gets a timestamp. It also gets its username so that it can be identifiable inside the dashboard, and that's all. And then it needs to perform all the instructions that the exercise implies. Now, usually at this point of the presentation, we have a demonstration of the simulator. There is no such need. There is no time for this. But if you want credentials, as I said, I mean, you can send an email to office@treio.eu and ask for some credentials as long as we still have time and the system is up and running. Now going to the validation procedure that Mariangela just mentioned in Florence. It took place in the face-to-face meeting in Florence. The attendees, predominantly from EIO committed authorities, prosecutors, technical and administrative staff, responded using the Mentimeter tool. We differentiated between groups of prior experience or no experience of the simulator and the roles of the audience. And the feedback that we got is that the simulator indeed proves its effectiveness in facilitating real-time TREIO training experience. Here are some findings. For example, do you find any benefit in the eEDES simulator? The majority of them, either with experience or no experience, they said, okay, yes, absolutely, yes, some maybe. What kind of benefits are obvious for you? Support for self-paced scenarios anytime. No need for an available pair on the other side or immediate response. Usually the autoresponder, for example, responds in less than a minute. Do you agree or disagree with these statements? The simulator is a valuable supplementary tool for training. With some improvements, the simulator would be a perfect training tool. And this probably summarizes all the findings. After this simulator session, do you feel more comfortable handling EIO cases? 3/4 answered yes. And my final slide on the key takeaways. Okay, the simulator is an important part of the toolkit, for sure. It's the fun part, for sure.
It depends.
It depends. Okay, it depends.
No.
What else? I mean, we can support also more advanced training scenarios. When we were young and ambitious starting this project, we said, I mean, the autoresponder could also respond to unstructured content. I mean, we had lots of discussions about this. I mean, we can have a more AI type of response. We can do this in a new project, maybe. Yes. Okay. And it can also, I mean, we said that the responder can respond to XML, eCodex XML messages. So this means that you can also implement other legal instruments, not only EIO. But of course, we need to keep in mind that the license is still just for the duration of the grant agreement. We might have some discussions with Christian about that and see how it goes. All in all, the simulator is there for you 24/7. It's easy. It's very generous because it allows mistakes. Of course, you're not going to put any real personal data on that. So it's your best friend in your training journey. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for this lovely presentation and also for having prepared the simulator. It's the fun part, yes, but it's now we're sort of competing for which part is the best. No. I think the simulator is actually what joins all our training together,
yes.
and which brings me to invite our colleague Georgina Humphreys on the program. You see here that it was Yves van der Meer who would have presented, but unfortunately he cannot, but perhaps also fortunately, because we're very happy to have Georgina present.
Yeah.
Georgina is part of the TREIO project and comes from the European Cybercrime Training and Education Group, ECTEC. Georgina, can you hear us? And the floor is yours. No, Georgina's there, but we can't hear her. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Excellent, there we go. I'm not sure if you can see me. I have turned my camera on, but if not, just let me know and I will have a look around, but otherwise, hopefully you can see the slides. So as my colleagues have said, there are some crossovers between actually the previous presentations and mine, which is always lovely. So I am Georgina Humphreys. I'm Associate Professor and I come from a university, but here representing on behalf of the European Cybercrime Training and Education Group, ECTEC, who have been involved in the development of the online training for TREIO. Today I will go through some of the achievements we've made during the course of the project, and has been mentioned so far, we have come up with a e-learning course, which comprises of several content, some of which has already been discussed, and I will touch upon that, but we have several parts to the online training. So we have an e-learning platform that we have set up for the purposes of implementing the self-paced training. We have the actual content and training itself as an e-learning module. We have some language versions, and then we have the complementary eEDES simulator, which has just been spoken about. But on top of that, we have some of the materials from the on-site, in-person trainings that are also useful for developers and also trainers of the e-learning course. So they all kind of come together in one big block at the end for the e-learning, but obviously it's slightly different to physical on-site face-to-face trainings. The idea behind the TREIO online training package was to deliver a single training package that would be useful for all of our stakeholders. However, we realised that over time there was a need, just like in Work Package 2, to address some different needs among stakeholders. So we've come up with two packages, one which is a full package for everything EIO and eEDES, and one which is for specifically eEDES training. So it's slightly shorter, more condensed, and focuses specifically on using the eEDES platform in various tasks. We've also identified that the full training package could be used as a refresher training as well. So where people can essentially cherry pick maybe areas where they need additional awareness or knowledge on specific EIO related activities or eEDES tasks. So all in all, we have kind of three different approaches, but two packages. There are various benefits to the TREIO online training, which you can see on the screen. I won't read them to you, but overall, it's about increasing the awareness of not only the EIO directive, but the EIO form and eEDES itself, and helping professionals, practitioners to basically build their knowledge around these areas and take an active role in their own learning. So the online training is self-paced, as I mentioned. There's no instructor behind this training, so it is kind of meant to be that participants can control their own study. So you can do this in between work time or other aspects, but it provides for greater flexibility and also accessibility for different stakeholders and across different European member states. We had various aims and objectives, and I've tried to kind of simplify them as best as possible, but I've covered it pretty much in the previous slide. So having a structured knowledge of the EIO directive and EIO procedures, being able to identify investigative measures, but also be aware of typical difficulties and ways to overcome certain aspects in the application of the EIO. Identify the procedures for transmission and receipt of an EIO, and also utilize the eEDES platform for effective transmission, issuing, executing, receiving, etc. of an EIO. And to do so within the online training, we obviously make use of the TREIO eEDES simulator, which now kind of stands aside as a tool that's very useful for training purposes. You don't have to have eEDES set up, as previously mentioned, but it is beneficial in the online approach and something that is embedded within the course. So participants are expected to utilize it throughout quizzes and exercises. The course is split into two, as I mentioned. The short course is around 2 to 3 days, and the full course is around a week in duration. It's fully online. The master copy is in English, and it targets multiple stakeholders with several language translations. And each online package contains 5 content modules. They are slightly shorter, obviously, in the eEDES package, but it still contains 5 modules. We have end of module quizzes, and we have the 10 exercises, which Yanis previously mentioned, and a quiz recap after quite a few of those exercises, just to stimulate self-evaluation by participants, and then a final examination at the end, which is typical of any training course, but something that you need to reach a certain percent to complete the course. The training has been designed similarly to Work Package 2, so we've used the analysis and observations and experiences from Work Package 2 to adapt the structure slightly, but as you can see, here are the 5 modules essentially, and then the take-home tasks that were mentioned, and also the use of the eEDES simulator at the same time. The curriculum, as with Work Package 2, similarly follows a logical flow to the EIO workflow, and also the use of eEDES when achieving tasks for issuing, receiving and executing an EIO. In terms of content, the content is obviously slightly different to that of the in-person trainings, because it is an online course. So it takes a collection of theory and practice together, as you can gather by having exercises and quizzes, but also there is reading materials. So there is textual content, there are demonstrations, exercises, some simulations, and then also we rely on the TREIO eEDES simulator as an extra tool for when they are to carry out any exercises or activities in a practical nature within the e-learning. So just to cover some aspects in terms of what is included, as you can see here, I will just run through a few things, but we have text-based content, we have graphics and animations to try and make things depicted in a nice fashion, so that different stakeholders who maybe learn better through text, some learn better through video, some learn better through graphics, others in various ways. So we've tried to mix the different styles of learning that we've included within the course. We have some really short videos. We have some knowledge checks. So self-evaluation and assessment can be carried out still online. And we have some demonstrations, which are essentially where we've kind of emulated certain activities, and we've provided professionals with the different kind of key points that we think need to be known during that particular instance or task. With the demonstrations and the videos, we've used subtitling mainly rather than audio, just for the fact of we realise people may be working in an office, so having audio may not be the best, and also for translation purposes, audio is a challenge as well. So to ease that, we have used subtitles. The videos can be slowed down and paused, and we recommend that when going through demonstrations that the professionals actually log into the TREIO eEDES simulator and follow along, so that they also gain the experience of acting out that task. In terms of extras, we also have some simulations. So this is slightly different to the TREIO eEDES simulator. And what we have done here is basically taken a particular task and we have encapsulated it in a simulation embedded within the e-learning itself. So the practitioner who is going through the e-learning can click on the various aspects they would do as if in eEDES. And they can go through this embedded in the training, and then at the end we expect them to go and also carry out the same thing now but in the TREIO eEDES simulator. So trying to get people to kind of go through the tasks themselves, experience it, and then practice it using the TREIO eEDES simulator. Here we have an example of a simulation, which I will play if it hopefully you can see it playing. Yes. So as you can see, it's embedded within the e-learning itself, but we go through the process as if we are in eEDES. And we have inputted some information because we can't type in this simulation, but we can click. So I will continue on, but you get the gist. That follows the path that you would if you were in eEDES, and at the end we expect them to go through the TREIO eEDES simulator as an example as well. We also had the practical exercises, and these are basically a minimum set of tasks. There are other tasks that they could do within the training, and we do recommend this. Obviously, no personal data is to be inputted into the TREIO eEDES simulator, but professionals could think up their own instances and practice those as well. But we have 10 as a minimum, and using the TREIO eEDES simulator, we basically have a set of instructions to follow and a task to do, and then a short quiz to check their completion at the end. As Janice mentioned, we have some tasks with instructions and some tasks without instructions. So in some lessons, they're expected to do a task where we give a step-by-step instruction. And then after that, they're expected to take a different scenario and follow the same task, but essentially without us giving instructions of what information needs to be submitted. We have translations, which I mentioned. We are adjusting selecting languages here. So if when the material is available, if your language is not there, then we invite you to come and support TREIO. The master materials are in English. There are various different files will be available at the end, dependent on the end user or stakeholder. So like participant, trainers, developers. I mentioned trainers here mainly for the fact that I know it's a self-paced course. It doesn't have to have an instructor, but maybe in some member states you would prefer the e-learning to still have some support from a trainer. So there might be some things that are good to know there. There will be two packages, as I mentioned, the full version and the eEDES version, and then a variety of guidance materials to complement that as well. One thing to note is that the e-learning is going to be exported in some way so that member states can adopt it going forward, and that will probably be via a SCORM package or a HTML version, and there will be notes on the kind of differences between those, and also the use of ECTEX Moodle, which Eve will discuss more about tomorrow. And you'll be able to ask more questions about specific packages there too. If I have time, Jean, is there still some short time?
it would be good if we could conclude, perhaps.
Then I will just present the slides. We have...
But you could, yeah, you can still have some minutes. Thank you.
Okay, I will do this very quickly. So this is just an example. I was going to do a quick short demo, but time not permitting.
I think a demo is always fun, so go ahead.
Do you want me to do the demo? Okay, I will do them. Okay, so in around a second or so, you should see my screen again. Sorry, I have to transition between screens, and hopefully it will appear on your screen now. Yes, there we go.
Yes,
now I can see it.
It's on the screen.
Thank you. So we have the English version of the course, which I will slowly demonstrate a few of the lessons. Depending on the size of the screen, you do have to adapt it, and I have a rather big screen set up, so I will adjust. But we have the English version where you're able to go through the training, and we have various modules. We have lesson overviews included so that the learner knows where they are in the training, what we're doing. We have graphics, texts, we have notes, we have additional graphics. Some of them are clickable. This one is just a next lesson, but some of them are actually interactive, so they're like an infographic. And we also have the same in other languages. So for example, we have here, I think, the Italian version, if I'm not correct. Some of the graphics still remain in English because they're based on the master version, but we will always provide a description in the chosen language to facilitate the language versions. But as you can see, much of the content is translated into other language. We also have the Spanish version, which if I click through, you can see you have a list of the lessons. And as I said, there are 5 modules, but there are actually a lot more lessons in the full package. And the short package is probably half the size of this, if not fewer. And we have the French version as well. So this is just some examples of how we have started with the TREIO online training. But as you can see, there are a lot more lessons in the summary that I showed you before than what I have just briefly flicked through there. But there are a lot of lessons that we've included. Around 4 or 5 demos in there for people to follow, and then the 10 exercises, around 5 end of module quizzes, some quizzes for the exercises, and then there's a final examination as well. So that's just a short view of the training, but obviously let us know if you haven't had access, and we can get you access to look at these and go through it, and we'll be appreciative of any feedback even at this stage. So that's me done, Jean. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Georgina. I hope you could hear the message of appreciation to Georgina. We were clapping for this.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for the presentation, and also for the all the work in guiding us, your cats, who were not always following what we needed to do for the e-learning, that we finally got there as well. Thank you.
Appreciate everyone's support. Thank you.
Thank you, Georgina.
Thank you. And now a breath of fresh air, you may say. You've been hearing TREIO, TREIO, TREIO. Now, Antonia, will you?
Okay, hello everyone. First of all, thank you for the invitation and for the TREIO team. So my name is Antonia Giannakopoulou. Most people know me as Tonya. I am an EJN contact point. I'm not a prosecutor. I am not a judge. I am in the administration. That's how they allow me to present myself with this type of hair and everything that you see. So I work since 2005 at the Department of Extradition and Mutual Legal Assistance in Athens, Greece. We are a department that deals exclusively with MLAs, EIOs, extradition, EAWs. So I do this for many years. So I will be very precise, and I will try to show you what actually happened during the training days that we had in Greece. I will give you my honest feedback and maybe some feedback that will give you something to think about, perhaps. Okay, so just shortly how the EIO works in Greece. Okay, we have implemented the directive since 2014. All judicial authorities requesting evidence can issue an EIO. In Greece, we are talking about hundreds. Apart from the judicial authorities, we also have authorities as police, customs and stuff that act as investigative authorities. They can also issue an EIO. It has to be validated by judicial authorities, so we're talking about a few more hundreds. When we are talking about recognition and execution, things get a bit easier. Only the public prosecutor at the Court of Appeal can recognize and execute an EIO, just 19, which is good. When the EIO is recognized, it's assigned to a judge to execute. What happened at the beginning? So a new tool, we were used to MLA and stuff. Of course, we have the, how we say, the forms, difficulties in Annex A, minimum training, word of mouth, how do I do this? What's A, what's B, what's C, what's going to happen? The Atlas was a lifesaver because now the authorities, the judicial authorities, sent directly the AIO one to another. So where do I send something? Oh God, okay, Atlas. Okay, we also have issues with the translation. Our Ministry of Foreign Affairs had a very clever idea and doesn't have a translation agency anymore for 3 years now. So we have to find external translators and beg them, please, it's urgent. We're trying to solve this. It's kind of solved. As always, EGN contact points to the rescue. Together with Eurojust and EJN, we have drafted some notes on how to fill in the EIO, what to do. So let's go to the good stuff. On-site training. So first of all, we were contacted by Alexandra and Jean to prepare for the training. Of course, Greece, eEDES, digital era, what is this? I remember Christian in the morning, he showed us an office of the prosecutor with files, a paper, and I was like, yeah, that's the office I work in. So we have work to do. So together with Jean and Alexandra, we did in October 2022 a training of master trainers by the TREIO Project. Okay, it was done virtually. We have gathered a group of practitioners, which means people actually issuing and executing an EIO, and also individuals dealing with the legal stuff. So the training, the actual training lasted for 2 days, as it was proposed by the team, the project team. It was done virtually. So we decided to do it like this. The first day on the 16th, it was like the legal stuff. What's an EIO? How to properly fill it in? What's going to happen if we have problems, legal issues? So that was a more theoretical approach to the EIO. On the second day, we did the IT stuff. We used eEDES platform, the simulator. We had, I think, 150 practitioners from all over Greece, mostly prosecutors, judges, and for the first time ever, I think, administrative people were involved. That I know we are doing the other stuff. So again, it was the first ever training, like almost 10 years after the implementation of the legislation, exclusively on the EIO and the eEDES platform. Everyone was asking questions, both on the legal basis, both on practical issues and what problems they have encountered during their practice days. And then we go to the feedback. So we start with the positive feedback. Okay. So I'm talking mostly about the eEDES and how we used it to show the practitioners how to use the simulator and play, as you said before. So it helped, the training helped us to have an in-depth analysis on how to properly fill in Annex A. The environment is user-friendly. I think it's not that difficult. Everyone was really happy that it's in Greek. Yeah, finally, a platform that I can understand, even a remote area where English is not a language for everyone, and this happens to many, many member states, believe me. So accessible to all practitioners. Also, what we got as positive feedback from the people that have tested the platform was that there is no room for error in filling Annex A, because if you do something wrong, there's this red thing saying, no, you cannot continue. You have to fill this in. No, oh no, you cannot continue. You haven't done this properly. So it's no way that you can do an error in filling Annex A. And also, it's a perfect way to keep statistics. If you remember, at the beginning, I told you that we have hundreds of issuing authorities sending EIOs all over the place. There is no central authority gathering these things. So in a couple of months, we will have the evaluation of the EIO. On the 10th round of evaluation, I think, from the Commission and the Council. And they will ask us, oh, how about statistics? How many EIOs have you issued as Greece? And then we will see what we'll hear. So eEDES is a perfect way of keeping statistics. So another positive that we were told by the practitioners. You have the possibility when you fill in Annex A and it's very, very urgent and you have to send it to another member state, you can have it translated by a machine, which is not an official translation, but if it's like a hot pursuit or a very, very urgent case, you have to have your evidence ASAP, you can have this, possibility. Also, of course, you can access the platform 24/7. You can say, okay, I will wake up at night, 2 o'clock in the morning. Oh, did they get my EIO? Oh, yes, they did. Perfect. So you have a real-time follow-up of the EIO. Also, not the toolkit, I think, but all the training material was given to the people attending the training in Greek. As Jean also said, it's also available in other languages. And now, challenges. So, let's start. As you probably noticed, maybe not, I will remind you, Greece is not one of the member states that is part of the actually using now the platform. So it's not mandatory. So we're not mandated by a law to use it, which is not good. Also, the training took place in last February 2023. When the training was finished, everyone was asking, great, can I use it tomorrow? And we said, no, not yet. So it's been a year. Probably some of the people being trained have forgotten the training, so we'll have to do it again at some point. So they were eager to use it, but as I told you. Also, I have been talking with colleagues from member states that are actually sending and receiving EIOs from other member states that are using eEDES. And they all told me that not all competent authorities are in the platform, even for the member states that are using the eEDES. For instance, I think Germany and Poland, not Poland, Germany and I think, yes, Spain for sure. They use and they send each other EIOs. But if I want some to send in Germany in a specific authority, this authority might not be inside the system. So even now it's not fully operational. Another problem that was pinpointed, I think, and during the training, digital signature. Of course, we have digital signatures. They're lovely. You just press a button and you put it. But we want to use our pens. Yes, we have to sign it ourselves. So, and from my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, in order to use the eEDES, you have to have a digital signature. Otherwise, the whole feeling of Annex A was not going to go. So, again, challenges. Okay, the regulation is not applicable yet. In my understanding, it will be like 226, if I'm not correctly. So it's there, but yeah, please. Yes.
228.
Yeah, okay. So we don't have the legal basis to exchange and transmit e-evidence. So let's say that we decide, our Ministry of Justice tomorrow morning decides, yeah, we have eEDES, perfect, it's a great platform, let's use it. We have trained people and let's use it. And we want to send to another member state the e-evidence. So bank accounts, I don't know, data, whatever. The lawyers will eat us alive. We cannot do it for the time being. Again, as I've told you like many times, too many issuing authorities in Greece. How about the accreditation? So I don't know if this is a problem that will be solved internally and nationally. So who will give the accreditation to these authorities? And who will give the accreditation to the police authorities where they issue the EIO to be validated? And who will gather the evidence? So I don't know if this is like technical stuff or just like legislation, how it's going to be implemented. It's room for thought. So, and also if we start using the platform, it becomes mandatory for all member states, and we start using it. And then, as we all know, whenever we have a new instrument, I'm talking about EIO, EAW, everything new that comes out of Brussels. We have to check it first and see if it works. So what do we see that there are some practical problems? And, oh, God, this is wrong. Can we improve it? Can we change, I don't know, the technical stuff, the IT stuff? And the future, on my perspective, of course. So I would really, really love to have a training on a regular basis, but it's not up to me. We have the minister who decides on what's done. And also it was mentioned school for judges and school for prosecutors. There is one in Thessaloniki, but it's not done on a regular basis, this training. It could be. Also, more member states, including Greece, should be uploaded, should use the platform. Also, if possible, we would like to share best practices with the states that already use it. For instance, I said that Greece is not allowed by law to send e-evidence by platforms, by email. Do other member states have had this problem? Have they had problems with the council, the lawyers? Who knows? Also, another thing that Christian mentioned, I think, in the EJN meeting, I don't remember, is it, if it's going to be mandatory to use eEDES for EIOs? Okay, it's mandatory, I will use it, it's 2028, we have e-evidence regulation, everything is working perfect. Is it going to be mandatory? So if I have an urgent case and I want to send it directly to, I don't know, a contact point, to my national member at Eurojust, can I do it? Or is it mandatory to use eEDES? I'm not sure about this because as I understand, it's still in the implementation phase, how to actually make it mandatory. And also, I always say this, please, here in Brussels, where all the decisions is taking place, in the member states, when you start to see and implement eEDES, involve practitioners, people that actually have seen an EIO, have seen how to fill it in, have executed, have seen the legal problems. That's all. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for sharing this experience. I know it's not the only one, and Christian, you have the floor.
Thank you very much for the presentation. It's always nicer to see somebody else speaking about the system that we built together because, of course, the proof of pudding is in eating. Just to clarification, indeed, with the digitalization proposal, eEDES will be, not eEDES, but the electronic exchange of EIOs will be, through the decentralized system, will be compulsory as of beginning of 2028. And also, there are foreseen exceptions, but not urgency being one of them. Unavailability of the system, I think it's one of them, some accessibility requirements. On the other hand, our colleagues from France that have implemented eEDES time then claimed that it's far more quicker to fill in an EIO through eEDES than it is to do it by hand or by any other means. Also, in terms of digitalization, we have to try to think also digitally, in the sense that these systems are very good if we use them. But if we have paper EIOs that are being sent like an email through a system, then the system cannot read the data and then further processing cannot be enabled. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I have two other people asking for the... And then I would not like to keep our very patient colleague from speaking. So...
Yes, just because I have received in these years, I have received many investigation orders from Greece, and just to make you laugh, one of the first investigation orders was about a cypress tree. He had understood that this person had understood. First of all, this judge hadn't an email of justice. There are many who haven't an email, and so they put their private. So this makes me laugh in an European investigation order. But in any case, we could communicate. And he understood that since he said it was, make it brief, it was stolen, the person to whom it had been stolen wanted it back. But I mean, he didn't understand how European investigation orders work. So I have appreciated that you have made this training so that now it is better. In fact, I found better European investigation orders. But considering the fact, since I've worked for the GN.2, The thing is that sometimes we must use the platform, and that's it. I'll send it to EGN, I'll send it to Europol, to Eurojust, and perhaps I can ask, no, you multiply the work, and that's terrible and doesn't make work the system, first. And second, it is true that there are many authorities in Greece, but the authorities which can be, let's say, out of public prosecutors or judges, they are written in an annex in the directive. But in any case, there are some which are authorized, like, for instance, in your country, but also in Germany. In Germany, finance, Minister of Finance, they are used to make, they are authorized, sorry, to make European investigation orders. If those orders come to Italy, they are refused. They are, because they are not the right competent authority. If it is signed then by a competent authority, it is okay. So I don't care about the first authority until the second says that it is possible. But in any case, and also police in Bulgaria and Romania, police, they make European investigation orders, but they are validated by the judge. It's okay, it doesn't matter if the first was by the police. So just to say this. Sorry, and this is in the annex. In the annex it is written, those who have the right, even though they must be validated.
Thank you very much, Fabrizio, for the reality check of how life is out there. Marco.
I'll be very quick. So mine was food for thought. So while I was thinking about 150 people, public prosecutors, training on the technological system and finding it useful because it helps you not to make mistakes. And then not having the system implemented at least until 2028. But at the same time, there's a system which for a few days is still can be used, at least to file or to compile the things. So one idea could be to have some kind of project, I don't know from whom, but just to have the filing form available, so that with the checks and with some training maybe ongoing, if you make mistakes, so that the public prosecutors, the judges can use the system and then not filing electronically, but they print it, they sign it on paper, so they're happy. But at the same time, is the form without the mistakes, so it's the correct form. So it could be an idea.
Yes, thank you. I will talk to the bosses.
Thank you very much for also sharing these ideas and also actually thinking how we can go on also with the materials in many other ways. So this is thinking of the utility of the materials. Orlando, please. Thank you. Thank you for being so patient.
Thank you. I'm sure I will be quick because we don't have so much time. My name is Orlando Mascarenhas. First of all, I want to thank you for the invitation. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here at this conference, learning a lot. I am the director of the Criminal Police Academy in Portugal. So we train all the police officers, all criminal police officers and other actors of the justice system. So that's why I'm here talking about training. Training, the toolkit, and what we need for the people to be better in what they do on the ground to fight crime, because we are criminal police investigators. And to start about training or to talk about training, I will pick up some words that Mariangela start early in the morning, look forward, and some keywords, knowledge, training, and digitalization, okay? And at the same time, she starts today with the where do we stand? Well, where do we stand? As human beings, human development, I think we are in a new era. We are now completely different than we are before, 10 years before. And the present, if you want to look to the future, we have to use these three words: knowledge, she mentioned, training, and digitalization. Sharing knowledge and training, I use the terms in the same way. We train to obtain knowledge and you use the knowledge to be better on training. That's what are you doing now with this toolkit. Be better on the knowledge using this kind of training, with this kind of toolkit. Preparing all the stakeholders of these products to be better on the future. Justice digitalization. I don't know, just like Paul before lunch, he had some doubts about what is the community. I have some doubts about what is the digitalization of the justice. I have that doubts. So I have to live with that. But for me, digitalization of the justice is using all the technology, specific digital technology, to be better with new procedures, to do things better than we do now. It's not only put the paper on a digital way. It's much more than that. That's why we need to train all the people to doing that. If we don't do this, it's, in my opinion, it's impossible to be in a new step on the future. That's why, for us, as clients of this product, it's very important for our police academy to obtain these tools, to use these tools to train all police officers on these matters, because they want to know, they have to be how I say that, they have to be experts on using this kind of ideas, of this kind of practice to do better their job. If they don't know how to do, it's impossible to put on the ground the digitalization. We can obtain all the kind of the technology. If you don't train the people to use that, we can't do nothing with the technology. That's why for us using this kind of toolkit, it's very important. And at the same time, when we are talking about training, there are a great challenge when we put the train on the ground. It's the time dimension. People don't have time to be on training. That's why these three parts of the toolkit is very important: the learning, the on-site, of course, and the simulator, because we can use the time on favor of the people. We usually don't have time to stay 1, 2, 3 weeks on a room to obtain the knowledge training. We don't have time to do that because people have a lot of work to do. And if we have other ways to transmit the knowledge and the learning and the simulator, they are very important to do that. People have the time to obtain the knowledge that they need to do the work. The methodology, or the approach with the methodology in the cascade way, in a cascade way, just similar like CPOL are doing now, the Police Academy agency. It's the same methodology. It's fundamental to share the knowledge with a lot of people. That's why in our Police Academy use the same methodology. The main idea of for me in this conference till that time is that we can share the knowledge, training the people using the technology. And if we do that in all member states, with all the stakeholders, I'm sure tomorrow we will be better than we are today. Thank you.
Thank you. And with this note of hope, I would invite you to have now a refreshment break for some more air as well. But thank you, Orlando, for putting us in such a good spirit. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.